Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. Welcome, everyone. So glad to see you. We're here to talk AHA. I'm very excited about our AHA journey that we're going to go on today. Really looking forward to that. We want to give folks just a minute or two to log in. Just a minute, not too long. Too long at all. In fact, while we're waiting, I'm going to go ahead and put the title screen up. See that okay? Yeah? Megan or Sean, you want to give me a thumbs up if you can see the slides all right?
Thumbs up.
Okay, you could give me a thumbs down. That's fine too. I'll know that you're here. Just kidding, just kidding. Again, thank you all. Welcome, welcome. Glad to see you. I hope everyone has their beverage of choice ready to be reflected upon while we learn how AHA roadmaps can support an agile transformation. I find that agile transformation is best with a fair trade coffee with just one sugar and a little bit of oat milk. I don't know about you two, but that's just me. Again, we want to give folks just another minute or so to get logged in and get cozy and get ready to learn about AHA. We won't wait very long, promise. We won't babble on too long. We've got a lot of fantastic information today and really useful. I was pretty blown away by the flexibility and potential of AHA roadmaps. All right, you know what? I think we can. What do you think, Megan, Sean? Good to go? Ready? Well, all right. 2 thumbs up. That's enthusiasm, which I appreciate. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for being here to talk about AHA roadmaps and how they can support your agile transformation. I am your host today, Ryan Spilkin, and I am just here to make sure that everyone keeps their hands and feet inside of the Zoom call at all times, and that we are someone's monitoring the chat and such. Also, my colleague Karen Ray is here from Adaptavist. We're just keeping an eye on the background. We want to hear your questions and such and be able to pay attention to what's going on. So we're watching the chat and we're here for you. But here to teach you about AHA roadmaps and how they can support an agile transformation. First, we begin with Sean Zenz, who's the Group Manager of Product Success at AHA. Sean, really a pleasure to meet you, Sean. How are you today?
I am doing great. It's a pleasure to meet you as well, Ryan.
Sean, you are in Ottawa, Canada. Am I right?
That is correct. Yeah.
Now, can you explain to me how Ottawa got a tropical storm this past week? Because I just don't understand that.
In the winter, we get ice storms. We've gotten a tornado recently, but I don't know how you get a tropical storm in a city that sits on a river. But hey, it is what it is, I guess.
Wow. And you were without power for how long?
Spent 3 days without power. As someone who has a horrible obsession to my phone, even being without cell service for 3 days is it's something else.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that you made it through that trying time and have the lights back on. We really can't wait to see what you're demonstrating today with AHA. Now, Megan Coots, you're a senior business consultant at Adaptavist, and you are awesome. Good to see you, Megan. How you been?
I'm doing very well. Good to see you too, Ryan.
It's always a pleasure, Megan. Now, Megan, you've been traveling. You've been all over the place, huh?
Yeah, it was a little bit of nothing for a while, maybe about 2 years, and now all of a sudden it's all at once.
Right. And I've heard the expression that I've heard is that you can't go home again, but you are in your childhood home today. Is that right?
I am. That's right.
Oh, how long has it been since you've been there?
It's been a while. It has been a while. Yeah.
Okay. We'll go with a while. All right. Nice to see you both. Glad you're here. For everybody who's on the call, we're just going to we have four places to go today. We've done the introduction. We're past that. We've made it through that, folks. And next, I'm going to turn it over to Sean for a roadmap demo. And then Megan's going to pick up with strategic agility via AHA. And then we're going to turn it open to your questions. We've already got some questions that came before this webinar, but then hopefully any that you have, drop those in the chat. We'll be keeping an eye on those and we'll address all of your questions at the end of the session, or as many of your questions as we can at the end of the session. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Sean and he's going to show us what's what. Sean, have at it, my man.
Excellent. Okay, so everybody should be seeing my screen now. Ryan, I very much appreciate the introduction. Very quick on my side. So as you mentioned, I'm a group manager here within the customer success team. My background is in product management. So I've been a product manager at a few different organizations before I joined AHA. And actually what drew me here is that I used AHA in the past and I implemented it for a team that was about 40 PMs, give or take. We had a challenge to solve around capturing customer feedback. So we typically receive feedback via email, water cooler conversations with sales teams, and our roadmaps were just PowerPoints. So there's a big struggle there for us. Here at AHA, we're all product development experts. Part of our customer success team, very similar experience that I have, building products with deep customer empathy and helping bring those to market. We take a very consultative approach when it comes to AHA, so helping our customers through implementation and answering questions. AHA as an organization, we are super fortunate to be the #1 product development software. We have over 5,000 enterprises that use AHA right now. And within those 5,000 enterprises, there are about 500,000 users that we help build, lovable products themselves. AHA is a very different type of high growth company, something to be proud of, in that we are completely bootstrapped, we are self-funded, and we're 100% remote and distributed. You mentioned I was from Ottawa. I have colleagues that are anywhere from South Africa to Hawaii. We're completely distributed across the globe. The other aspect that makes us a little unique is that we don't have a sales team. Rather, we have people like myself who are former product managers. Very recently, we announced the fact that we surpassed 100 million in recurring revenue. So of course, as an organization, that's super exciting, but even on a personal level for each one of us, it was a pretty big milestone for us. So I'm happy to share that. Everybody should be seeing my screen right now. I wanted to share a little bit about our product development suite before we dive right into AHA itself. Our suite is all closely tied together to help you bring products to market and help you show value to your customer. The very first item, or very first product, I should say, is AHA Create. So this is a digital notebook solution. It allows you to take raw information, raw notes, whiteboard concepts, and collaborate with your team. The second is AHA Ideas. So this is a comprehensive idea management solution. So this is where you can crowdsource ideas, you can engage with your community, and you can also do things like analyze trends, which as a PM, I think is super interesting. Our flagship product, and what we'll be speaking about, and I'll dive into here in a second, is AHA Roadmap. So this is your complete product management solution. And our fourth product is AHA Develop. So this is a fully extendable Agile development tool. And this is where you can work with your developers and you can enable them to create their own extensions and modify what exists, and very much designed for that developer. With all these products, how they come together is you have the capability from the very get-go, the very first conversation around capturing raw feedback, turning that into concepts and whiteboards, collaborating with your customers and prioritizing their feedback, translating that into your product roadmaps, and then lastly, planning seamlessly with your development team themselves. I'm going to go ahead here. I'm going to jump into another tab. I like to start on this how AHA works screen as I share AHA with organizations, because I am a visual learner, as many people are, and I like the data model that gets presented here. AHA is very much a solution for the why, which is the strategy side of your portfolio. It's for the when, which is your releases, your go-to-market, your customer experience that you provide. And it's also a solution for the what. So think your traditional backlog management as a PM, day-to-day. I've always referred to my backlog in epics and user stories, and that's exactly what this allows you to manage. To put my PM hat on for a sec, up here in the very top left, we have Elite running. And as I click into this hierarchy, you can see my entire portfolio. So at the very top, Fredwin Software Inc., this is a fictitious company for demo's sake. And as we go to the very bottom here, you can see my different workspaces. Workspaces are the lowest level in my hierarchy. This is where I'm defining, let's say, for example, I'm the PM for Elite Running, the product Elite Running. This is where I'm defining my strategy. This is where I'm planning my go-to-markets. I'm managing my backlog at work, within the workspace itself. Above this are my lines. This allows me to group my products logically, or even group my portfolio when we start talking about maybe non-product management, to group my portfolio into how my teams are structured too. We're going to be focused on product management use cases here as I kind of go through the other screens within AHA, but it's definitely worth mentioning that if I go up to the very top right here, where I add a workspace, it's worth mentioning that AHA is absolutely a solution for the product management team, but product managers work with all the other teams, all different groups within the organizations. And these other groups have needs when it comes to roadmaps and planning as well. It's obviously very common for product management to be working hand in hand with marketing or maybe a project team. And those types of different teams, they also need a spot to plan their work. So you'll notice these different workspace types for different types of teams in your company. Now, with that mentality of start with why, under strategy here, this is where I can define the vision for, keep in mind, I'm at the elite running level. So this is the vision for elite running. This is where I'm defining my different strategic business models within AHA as well. So you'll notice over on the left-hand side, there's a bunch that I'm sure are familiar to you, things like Lean Canvas. But you also have the capability to add a model here and define a shared model that everyone within the organization will utilize. Really, the key to this, the point to this, is that we want everybody speaking the same language. We want everybody kind of approaching the output in the same way, and being able to capture it one spot is ideal. We also have positioning documentation. This is where I'm working maybe more with a sale or a marketing team to inform a sales team of how to position our product. AHA is also capturing user or buyer personas. We're capturing competitive information in here too. I mentioned that AHA is a hierarchy, so you can see that here. That also comes into play when we start talking about competitors. You know, perhaps 360 Tracker is a direct competitor to our elite running product, but we may have competitors that are a little bit more broad against our portfolio. So we can move to different levels in our hierarchy to capture unique strategy, unique competitive information as well. As we look at our imperatives, this is where we capture our objectives as our goals. So these will be our strategic objectives. For my elite running product, you'll see here that I want to be the #1 social fitness running software. It's one of my goals that I've defined. You'll notice on the right-hand side, I have progress. We're kind of making our way there. You'll see our status as well. There's a time frame of when we want to accomplish this. But you'll also notice that we have a success metric here, that's 50% market share. It's awesome to have goals, but of course we need a way to be able to measure ourselves, and that's exactly what our success metrics are. If you think about our goals, as I do, about being kind of which direction we're headed, then when you look at our strategic initiatives here, this is very much the path in which we'll take to get there. So, hey, we want to add new reporting views to the elite running product, and that's our initiative that we've defined. And you'll see that I have similar metrics of capturing this. You'll see progress on the right. You know, what is the status right now? But also when I scroll down a little bit, you'll see that I have a couple goals connected to this. So this is the red thread of strategy, the idea that I can connect even my lowest level tactical work all the way up to my strategic initiatives, and even my goals are connected to my initiative. If you think about it in the way that there's you know, just having a goal is not enough, or just having a plan with no goal is not enough, these initiatives and goals kind of sit side by side. They're a part of each other. As you look at this initiative and you say, hey, you know, add new reporting views, sounds interesting, but what exactly does that mean? This is where we can scroll a little bit further down. You'll notice here that I have different releases. So this is where we get into, here are my different go-to-markets. We have epics, and then we have features, or what I often call user stories. Keep in mind that terminology in AHA is customizable, so you can kind of match this to how you work. If this contains kind of all the work in the bigger plan, the next kind of phase to this, the next step to this is, how do we go to market? How do we release updates to this add new reporting view? Within the releases section here, kind of what we think about as the when in AHA, this is where I can click into my Gantt view. And you'll see on the very left-hand side that I have different releases or go-to-markets. As someone who works a ton with AHA customers, part of my role in the past year in AHA has been to work very closely on implementations through what's called the concierge service. Part of what we do when it comes to release management is we talk about, okay, well, what is your release process today? I know, for example, in my past, I had a platform that we released on a quarterly basis, but then we had components that we'd add on to it that we would release literally on demand whenever we needed to is how we'd approach it. I often get questions here on, well, okay, you know, we are a continuous innovation or continuous development shop. We maybe don't have the concept of a release right now. And my feedback there is think about how you go to market, think about how you communicate. This release is a container of a customer experience, what you want to provide to your customers. So you notice here in this Web v12 release that we have a design phase, we have customer research, we have development, we have milestones where we have to review with a team. Each one of these items that you see here, these are all derived from a template, and these are all representing the work that we have to do to be successful as part of a go-to-market launch or part of a go-to-market. Even if we're releasing user stories every single day, we're still going to have some sort of communication plan. You know, here at AHA, for example, we blog post every Friday. There's our go-to-market. You'll notice in here that I also have these gray lines. These are dependencies. So this is where I can visualize not just within the release itself, but I can even have dependencies cross releases or even cross teams. You know, maybe I have some marketing content that I need to make sure there's a dependency to. I can visualize that here. The other item worth mentioning here is these releases, the phases and milestones that you see. These are being derived from a template. It's pretty common, you know, of course, as we go to market, that there's this repeatable things that we need to get done. Here's an example here, the sales and support training. If I click into sales and support training, there's little smaller items that need to get done too, like, hey, we need to schedule that webinar. Hey, we need to make sure somebody is in that sales training on Friday, and we can utilize items like to-dos to do that directly in the milestone itself. When I add myself a brand new release, I'm actually asked, what is the release phase template to utilize to make sure that I'm saving myself time and I'm picking the one that's appropriate. Maybe I have concepts of major versus minor releases. Maybe I'm sunsetting a product, and I can define a template for that. If we then progress one more to the right and we speak a little bit around ideas and how we capture this information for our roadmap. I mentioned that AHA includes the capability to capture ideas and customer feedback. And you can see that here within the ideas overview screen. Over on the right-hand side, here's a bunch of different ideas that we've captured from our customers. You'll see how we've managed these so far, how we've actioned these. But importantly, how these ideas get to me is that they're being raised through an idea portal. An idea portal is something that as a AHA administrator, as an AHA user, I will publish this portal. So I can share this publicly if I want. I can share this privately where I'm going to require authentication before they log in. Oftentimes I'm going to launch an idea portal just internally. So I can give others on my team, maybe account managers or salespeople, a chance to actually raise ideas that they've seen, they've heard from customers, and provide me that type of insight too. It's important to note that from an idea portal perspective, the people who are raising these ideas, they're free and unlimited. So whether those happen to be end users or customers, whether they happen to be internal users, it doesn't matter, they're all unlimited. When an idea is raised, I'll see that over on the right-hand side. I can click into this idea, and there's a couple of things that kind of jump out. So first of all, it's going to share, you know, who raised this idea. It'll help me understand maybe if I want to go follow up with someone or have a deeper conversation with them. It'll also come in with an idea status. So I can make a determination very quickly. How do I want to action this idea? Is this something we're planning for? Maybe it's a future consideration. That's a decision point I can make. When it comes to this idea being raised, there's of course a prioritization process that happens. my experience in the past with this one has been sometimes it is executives can kind of come through and say, hey, we absolutely need to do something. And then there's conflicting opinions in sessions like QBRs of, hey, what is the priority here? Well, we've solved that through what we call the product value score. The idea that when something is raised, feedback is raised by a customer, I can dive into the idea. I can utilize the product value score here to take a very tactical way, a tactical prioritization process to ensure that I'm looking at each one of these ideas in a similar light. So I'm prioritizing them in the same way. This scorecard is customizable, and it also transfers to other records within AHA. So what I mean by that is when I go ahead and decide, you know what, this training register, awesome idea, we definitely want to do it. Well, I can go ahead and promote this to a different record within AHA. So maybe I'm going to promote it to an initiative, it's a big project, or maybe I'm going to promote it to an epic or a feature onto my backlog to then go prioritize a little bit further. What's interesting about this as well is I have the capability to generate reports. I mentioned the concept with Ideas Advanced of having trending information too. The reality is when it comes to idea management, there's going to be so many ideas and there's only so much time to implement them. So it's good to have a very solid process around how we prioritize and something that's very easily repeatable for other PMs here in the organization too. I mentioned promoting to my backlog. So when I head over to my features board here, this is where as a PM, I spend the vast majority of my time. These releases might look familiar. We were just looking at a couple of these examples on the releases Gantt view. These are now structured in these columns with the one on the left being the release that's due at the door next. And each one of these, what we call a feature card, represents that bit of work. So you can see the little epic sitting on top of my feature in this case. Now, when I click into this feature, you'll see that we have similar concepts of these other records. Hey, this one has a description and has a name that goes along with it. You'll notice that it has a status, it's ready for development as well. And then as I scroll down a little bit, you'll see I also have concepts in here like the product value, so a scorecard that's being transferred over from the idea. Now, not all features are going to come from ideas, of course. You know, there's going to be situations, probably most of the time, where I'm adding these features at the very top. And same goes for epics, but you know, much of our roadmap is built on customer feedback, and I do have the capability to promote them here as I want to. Now, within the feature itself here, I have the capability to do a few different things. I mentioned AHA Develop as being the Agile tool from AHA. I have the capability right here to go ahead and assign a team to this feature, so I can actually place it in their backlog. And then that Agile team or that development team can take that item, they can prioritize it, and they can break it down further if they needed to as well. For teams that are using, say, something like Jira or maybe using DevOps, you'll notice there's an integration here as well. I happen to be integrating with Jira right now, but you know, the other tools are extremely similar, how you approach the integration. And what's really interesting about this is, you know, you'll see this is mapped to a story in Jira. What's interesting here is as the development team works through this story, as they update the status, as they develop it, that integration is bidirectional. We're going to receive real-time updates from Jira as, hey, what's the latest status? What is the stream of comments, the conversation that's happening there too? And I can, as an AHA administrator, I can be very selective on how I want to approach this. There's certain aspects of my integration that, yeah, of course, I want it to be two-way. You know, I want the name to be the same. I want descriptions. I probably want comments. But something like the status of a feature, as a PM, at least speaking to my experience, I was not the authority on whether something was in development or in QA. You know, that's the entire team I get to work with. And that's a great example of where I'd set up my integration to be one way just for this particular field. As you look to this board, it's worth mentioning that this is all drag and drop. So I can literally move these items around between releases if I want to, drag and drop to change the priority, change the epic that is associated to as well. It's completely up to you how you approach this. as you look at this board, it's a good mindset to have is everything with this white background on the left-hand side. This is all well-defined, clearly planned work. This is when I want it to go to market, and I have a good sense of kind of where it fits. But the reality is, hey, we're going to have launches where we get 90% of the work done, or where we decide to deprioritize something. That's exactly what this parking lot is for on the right-hand side. I can literally drag and drop into my parking lot area, or other way around, where I can move this work from the parking lot into a planned release. What's not on my features board, and I think it's very important, what's not on my features board is ideas, things I'm thinking about, but I'm not sure. I haven't really gone through it yet. It's exactly what the idea section is for. The features board is for that well-defined, planned work. It's very actionable here. For those items I'm not just quite sure about at all, you know, we'll keep those in ideas, and we'll promote them to features when we're ready to go. Looking at this features board right now, obviously these are my plans. This is what I'm planning for the next little bit here. But it's a little busy. You know, I'm not sure I'd suggest that, hey, this is a roadmap I'd share, maybe beyond, you know, someone in development. Really, the next piece of this is I have all my strategy, ideation is set, my go-to-markets are clear, I know exactly what my plans are. I want a output of my work. I want to see this in a roadmap. Under my roadmap section here on the very top right, this is where I can choose the roadmap or reports that's most appropriate for the story I'm trying to tell. In the same way that for different meetings, you have different, you know, PowerPoints, different roadmaps serve different audiences and different purposes. As the name suggests here, this starter roadmap, this is a great place to start. This allows me to both create brand new items in my roadmap, but also come in here and say use existing. I want to very quickly see, you know, hey, the next couple upcoming releases. And you know what? I'm speaking to an audience that wants to be a little bit more detailed. I'm going to also share maybe some of my features that are planned as well. All throughout AHA, and you'll notice it now for sure, all throughout AHA, we have this little share icon in the very top right. So if I want to get this view to somebody, I want to get this view to, you know, maybe one of my colleagues, maybe my boss, I can go ahead here and maybe first save what I'm doing and make sure it looks in the way I want it to. But then click on my little share icon and then share this in the way that I want to. So maybe I want to share this as just a single web page. Doesn't have to be more complicated than that. Live updating web page, I'm going to email it around, or even have AHA schedule an email delivery for me, remind everyone, hey, go check my roadmap. You know, it's been a week, go check it again. The other thing I can do here, I'm going to speak to this a little bit more, is to add this to a presentation. I mentioned in the past when I brought in AHA, one of the challenges that we had was we would build PowerPoints for things like QBRs or roadmap reviews. We would email them around for better or worse. And 6 weeks later, someone would go, well, in your PowerPoint, it said this, and now you're telling me it's something different. The reality with product roadmaps and product management is that it's our job to constantly evolve, constantly reevaluate, and ensure that our plans are the best based on the information that we know. And our plans are going to change. Part of what a presentation allows me to do is keep a live, up-to-date view of this, and I'll share what this looks like. The other items I'll mention here quickly as part of the roadmaps is, you know, when I'm speaking to perhaps a leader, I can dive into a strategy roadmap. In AHA, the concept of how we customize and kind of the user experience is extremely similar. You can assume a company of product managers and UX people have a good sense of how the UX should be on the product, I would hope at least. So in the very top left here, you'll notice this, there's a gear icon, and this is kind of common throughout the roadmaps and reports. Right now in this roadmap, you'll see on the left-hand side, there's that rollout to partner portal I was kind of focusing on earlier. Here's a bunch of my initiatives that I want to communicate. Right off the bat, I don't want them to be this kind of light purple. I want to communicate what the status is. So I can come in here and say, I want to color these bars by, and then pick status as an example. And within this view, I can click on customize. I can decide, well, how detailed do I want to get? Does my audience need to know about our releases right now? Maybe not. Do they need to know about my epics or features? No, I think that's a little too detailed as well, but I would love to communicate what is our objectives or our goals, and you can see that here. The other item worth mentioning is that I don't talk in months. I typically talk in quarters. So I'm going to go ahead and change this over to a quarterly view. I like what I have now. I'm going to give myself a better name to it, save this view, and then I can go ahead and share this, as I mentioned before. The other item that I think is really interesting too, especially for very advanced teams, is the concept of capacity planning in AHA. So as we think about, kind of day-to-day as a product manager, I may manage capacity for individuals on the development team. And that is something that you can accomplish through AHA. You'll see this individuals on the very top left here. But we also have the capability to manage at a team level. So really what this is helping you do is to say, okay, well, I'll assume for this example that we're talking about big initiatives is where we're providing estimates. It allows you in AHA to define each one of the teams that I work with, and these teams could be specific to Elite Running, or maybe from a development perspective, we think about it a little bit more broadly. We have shared resources across all the different product teams. In my teams, I'll define, okay, well, who's in the team? How many people are there? And I can assign almost like a users to the team. How many people are in the team? How often, what is their work schedule? Do they get 4 weeks vacation a year? Is there any sort of planned events that we have, maybe like an offsite that happens? And I can make sure that I set their availability as detailed as I possibly can. Then what I can do is I can dive into each one of these initiatives, and I can actually provide detailed estimates on the initiatives themselves. What this then allows me to do is determine, well, are my plans feasible? Are they possible? If I have all these different initiatives that I want to accomplish with my current resources based on the time frame that I really want to get this done and the scope that I've currently set, is it possible? And you can see here that the answer in April is yes. The answer in May and June is no. I've overloaded some of these teams. And what this allows me to then do is react to this. Okay, does that mean I need to go try to get a new hire? Does that mean I need to reduce scope? Does that mean I need to maybe I slip this by a month so I can kind of move a lot of that development work into July or August as an example instead? This capability, this team capacity planning is part of the Enterprise Plus plan that comes with AHA that you can choose. This report is something you could then share and utilize as a working report to work through the team and make sure your plans are accurate. With all that being said, in these different types of roadmaps and reports, and I'll say that there are hundreds of additional ones if you dive kind of one layer deeper here in AHA, different examples of list reports, pivots, charts that you can build out. Fundamentally, it's about sharing this, of course, with my stakeholders. And there's a couple of ways for me to do that. First of all, I can dive into a dashboard. So as kind of the name implies, I'm able to take a collection of different reports, a collection of different roadmaps, bring them into a single view, and then share this view with whomever that I need to. This could be a tactical dashboard if I wanted it to be something I look at every single day, or this could be a leadership dashboard to make sure that, hey, our initiatives are on track, highlight when we're having challenges, and each one of these panels that you see right now is its own report or roadmap that I could build and add as a new panel. I mentioned sharing before. I can go ahead and share this as a web page if I want to. I can make sure this gets emailed on a weekly basis, just purely as a reminder to my team. It's important that we pay attention to this. The other aspect that I'll mention here in terms of sharing is presentations. So presentations are to me at least, they are the replacement for a PowerPoint. PowerPoint is great. I think we all use PowerPoint. It's great, but there's challenges there. And one of the challenges is the fact that, hey, it doesn't stay up to date. Over on the left-hand side, you'll see that I have all these different slides right now in this presentation. And as I click through and I click quickly, you'll see that it takes a second for this to load. And the reason why this is happening is that this is actually a pivot report embedded within the slide itself. So if I want to, I can click on the pivot and I can actually go modify that report and go change it if I need to. But what I did want to highlight is the fact of each one of these views, I have the capability to decide how it keeps itself up to date. So in this pivot report, you'll notice on the update frequency on the right-hand side, I have this as a live updating report, which means I can send this presentation every single time someone accesses it. It is the live information. They're not seeing an old version of something. This works awesome for tactical views, for strategic views, but there's going to be examples where maybe I'll look at my vision statement here. In my little vision diagram here, this could be a great example of where, hey, maybe I'm working on this on a Friday afternoon and I leave half a sentence. I don't need that to go out to everybody who can see my presentation. That's a great example of where I'd say, hey, this is something that I gate. I'm going to go ahead and just do a refresh and update, or even show an old version with a manual snapshot. What this experience looks like to someone I'm sharing the presentation with, this is where I can go ahead and say, open a secure web page. And then from an end user perspective, they can click through it like they would any sort of other slide deck. But like I said, the information is now up to date and live if I choose to make it that way. From a security perspective, note that you can password protect it. There's SSO options as part of the Enterprise Plus plan as well. And every now and again, someone's going to say, hey, can I get a PDF because I want to draw on it? Sure, absolutely. You can update a PDF, give them a PDF version if they want. So that's always an option as well, though. Obviously, I do everything I can to make sure I give them a live link, so everything's up to date. That's everything that I wanted to share, especially those different aspects around the strategy roadmap and the dashboarding, as well as the capacity planning. So let me go ahead. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And Megan, I'll go ahead and I'll pass it back to you.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Sean. All right. So thank you so much for that demo, Sean. Really great stuff. I think at one point during that demo, when you were talking about capturing strategy and AHA roadmaps, you said something very clever. Start with why. And what I want to do today is just to take a couple of minutes and home in on why you should start with why. And I'm certain the very few business leaders would argue that company strategy is one of the most important, most fundamental elements to success. Without an effective strategy, your company is rudderless. And yet, I'm equally certain that strategy is one of the most neglected elements at any organization. Now, that's rarely intentional, but it's easily felt, but difficult to measure. If your company objectives were not met for that year, was the problem in execution? If so, where exactly did things break down? Or was it in strategy formulation? Was the strategy itself flawed? If that's the reason, how do we know? And many might stop at interrogating either of those two factors. It's got to be one or the other, right? And hopefully not both. But there is a third factor. Maybe top-level strategy was sound. The company's leaders read the competitive landscape and were confident in where the business needed to go. And maybe execution teams can point to a perfectly executed backlog, but the connection between the two isn't there. What was implemented doesn't match what was strategized. Why? There was a gap, operational and communicative, between strategy formulation and strategy execution. That means that what was implemented, whatever it was and however perfectly it was, wasn't strategic. We don't think of implementation as strategic very often. The Project Management Institute finds that only 17% of companies think this way. Implementation is, as we often think of it, an operational task. And for us here at Adaptavist, operational efficiency and agility is usually top of mind in what we practice, and it should be. But I would like for us to take a moment and think about implementation in strategic terms. The execution of our day-to-day work should be the implementation of the strategy we formulate, the goals and strategic initiatives determined by a company vision and set by leadership. But the gap between formulation and execution is wide. According to Harvard Business Review, 85% of executive leadership teams spend less than an hour per month discussing strategy. That means that strategy isn't often prioritized. More alarming, 95% of a company's employees don't understand that strategy, even when the communication is there and cascaded down. That means that the implementation, the work, those tasks, epics, user stories assigned to your development teams loses their strategic value. The work is disconnected and teams are disoriented. That's a real risk. Strategy is attempted, but it goes nowhere. Implementation is disconnected from what should be driving it. And this only becomes more apparent in times of volatility and disruption. The companies that have weathered the last 2 years the best do two things. The first is they work to narrow that gap between strategy and execution. And how? They don't think of strategy formulation as a single event, one and done in January. It's a process that's at work 24/7, and they create solid, visible through lines from that strategy to the work items the teams and individuals undertake. The second thing, and I'll tell you that this can only be enabled by the first thing, is that they practice strategic agility, the ability to respond at the strategic and the operational level to opportunities and threats. And I mean by that the anticipated and the unanticipated. Success in volatility and the successful execution of strategy is dependent on these two things. And what excites us about AHA and its road mapping software is that it gives companies a tool to achieve both these things: a strong through line between strategy and execution, and the ability to be agile with your strategic initiatives. AHA is designed with that top-down approach to connecting strategy to execution that enables a 360-degree visibility. In planning strategy, teams can come at it from a present to future direction. Where does now take us in a year's time? As well as future back planning. How do we work back from that annual goal? And what do those milestones look like? More importantly, that strategy is also linked, as you saw, to the release schedules and the features that also live in AHA. So now you've got one place, one single source of truth for both strategy and execution. And essentially what this lets you answer is the question that so many organizations honestly have trouble answering, which is, are we doing what we said we would be doing? But I also think AHA helps you answer another important question. Are we making the right goals? Doing the work of breaking down your strategic initiatives and aligning them with your delivery teams and their day-to-day work really crystallizes how good your goals are. If you've got massive amounts of work you can't connect up, or strategic initiatives you can't break down, or are orphaned from the rest of your work items, that is a huge visual clue right in AHA that there is a flaw in your strategic planning. AHA provides the kind of single source of truth that can shine a light on those hidden disconnects. And speaking of alignment with delivery teams, Gartner has found that organizations that are able to successfully unlock capacity to execute new growth strategies increase their profitability by 77%. So to say that you have strategic alignment goes beyond understanding how a strategic initiative is broken down into work items. It means also ensuring that allocation is aligned with strategy. Gartner stresses that successful leaders don't just look for market share. They also anticipate and create market opportunity. And they know how to allocate resources to create strategic agility and capture those opportunities. And again, the kinds of opportunities that we're talking about may by and large be completely unanticipated, are informed by disruption, and require dexterity to capture. And for that, we're seeing, as you just saw, AHA's capacity planning features help enable that visibility and the ability to reallocate resources and see the impacts in real time. So you can see where your teams are and what they're doing, but you can also see how sudden or planned shifts in priority impact the rest of your business. And when those shifts happen, and they will, even during normal quote unquote strategy planning, the question then must be asked, how do you ensure that your teams are on board? How do you get buy-in, alignment, and understanding? Because the truth is, most employees likely don't understand their role in strategic initiatives, especially when new initiatives are launched. And connecting strategy to execution is important in contextualizing that day-to-day work and ensuring that you're doing what you said you would be doing. But that connection also helps employees understand a company's purpose and how the work they do contributes to that purpose. And that sense of contribution and accomplishment toward a purpose is how you foster motivation and get that buy-in. Effective communication and visualization of that strategy to execution connection is key. And not just to employees, as Sean said, to leadership, to stakeholders, and to customers. AHA lets you formulate and document strategy and connect high-level goals to departmental or product-level initiatives that drive the company forward. And with those links in place, a whole suite of legible roadmaps fall into place. Features on a strategic timeline for leadership or customers, release schedules for product management, and all the support functions required to bring that feature to market, and tactical reports that let you track progress, triage disruptions, and pivot with intelligence. And I love this because what AHA is doing here is showing you how well they know that strategy is dynamic. It is an ongoing process of formulating, planning, implementing, and communicating that requires buy-in and attention from all sides of the business. And if the last 2 years have taught us anything, it's that strategic agility is vital to ensuring not just a company's success, but its survival. You are going to need to know how to pivot on the ball of your foot and keep going. And you can't do that without tripping if you don't know first where you are right now, and then how to create that unified momentum toward a new trajectory. So how do you enable strategic agility? I think it comes down to 3 things. It requires strategic sensitivity, making the right goals and tying them directly to what your teams accomplish. Resource fluidity, having the right people on the right things, and knowing how to successfully shift your priorities when disruption occurs and you need to capture new opportunities. And collective commitment, using the right communication for the right audience to build confidence, trust, buy-in, and motivation. And everything that we just talked about, for successful strategy execution, you're going to have to do that as a regular, dedicated practice. And that is why we are really excited about how AHA is making that possible for our clients with AHA roadmaps. That's it, Ryan.
Well, there was so much, like, I was sitting watching the two of you, and there was just so much like, whoa, yes. I found myself saying yes. In my head, of course, I wasn't saying it out loud, but yes, awesome stuff. The connection between the why and the execution that both of you talked about today was so cool. And the way that AHA allows you to visualize, communicate, the presentation mode blew my mind. I think there are some people that that if they saw that, they might question the very nature of reality. Okay. So we did get some questions. I haven't seen any questions come through in the chat, but if anybody that's hanging out on our webinar today wants to ask questions of Megan and Sean, they are welcome to drop them in the chat. But these questions that you're seeing on the screen now came through earlier. So we got a minute or two. Do any of these jump out to you two that you want to tackle first, or do you want to just start at the top? Because does AHA support more than just product teams? I think that we could answer that with one word. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
It certainly does.
And it's all about choosing what configuration you're going to, go ahead.
Yeah, I think so. And I think with the work that I have done with our clients, I think often it starts out in the PMO, right? The product management comes and says, we need to implement AHA roadmaps in order to expand our ability to report out to stakeholders, to report out to leadership, and to wrap our arms around the entire product development lifecycle. Once those teams have buy-in and they see what AHA is capable of, then we start to see some of those other support functions come to the fore and say, we want to be a part of this. We want to ensure that our dependencies are reflected in the software. So you start to see sales come in, you start to see marketing come in, you start to see other of those departments come in, and then you have the entire ecosystem represented.
Meg,
right on.
We do have a couple of questions.
Oh, I am. Oh, there they are. All right. Radhakrishnan asks, what other tools AHA can integrate with, like Jira, any others? This pretty much talks about, what does AHA wrote? How does AHA play with the other toys in the space?
Yes. So the list is extensive. I'll mention a couple, and then maybe what I'll do is I'll share a link to the articles so you can kind of read through other ones. Kind of right off the bat, the common development tools, so the Jira, the Rallies, the DevOps, the GitHub. We also integrate with things like Salesforce. So when you want to capture, say, opportunities from Salesforce, opportunity values, and then use that as a criteria for evaluation when you're going through prioritization of ideas. There's also things like Slack integration. The next kind of question here, AHA roadmaps, does it work with Jira and Confluence? I mentioned Jira, but Confluence is another integration where I can publish my work, so publish my roadmaps or publish a view from AHA directly into Confluence and have that as a live updating view as well. Give me a sec here. I'm going to grab a link to the documentation. I'll throw this into the chat and just make sure, just let me know that you got it.
Oh, thank you, Sean. While you're doing that, Michael has a fantastic question from Mr. Bruner. I found that teams have a good idea of what their strategy should be, but they begin to hesitate when it's actually time to document. Yes. Yes, true, Michael. How do you get over that hurdle when facilitating the strategy definition activities?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is common. I think what it comes down to is really understanding, again, that strategy is an ongoing process, right? We think of development as an iterative process, but we don't often think of strategy in the same way. You're creating your strategic goals and initiatives in, fourth quarter, and then you set them in stone in January and you execute them on them throughout the year. I don't think that necessarily it needs to be that way. I think it needs to be more of an iterative process, understanding, of course, that there are certain sort of more cemented goals that need to be in play. For example, like an annual revenue goal. That may get shifted depending upon circumstances throughout the year, but typically we like to lock those in early in the year. But once you get kind of lower down, maybe at the portfolio or the product level, I think it's an ongoing conversation. And I think AHA really kind of facilitates that process because you can document them and create the links and then visualize again, that red thread of strategy between the strategic initiatives and the epics, the features, the user stories that you've connected them to. And then once you see that on a roadmap or in a list report, you can start to interrogate that and say, is this backlog reflective of the initiative that we have created? And if it's not, what do we feel more confident about? Because if I know in my gut that this is the right feature set to build for this quarter, but it's not linking up to the initiative, then maybe it's the initiative that we need to work on, that we need to iterate a little bit, take it back to the drawing board.
And there's always that fear of the blank canvas to get over,
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
That is nothing to sneeze at, but that's a whole other thing. Just get to it, dang it.
Yeah. The only other thing that I'll quickly say too is that I think with AHA roadmaps, as excellent as this software is, the first step is not to go right into the software. It's really just as you would with PI planning. You don't start with the software, you start in a room together with a whiteboard. That is exactly what you should do with AHA roadmaps as well.
Nice. And I see, Sean, you have entered something about the next question. How do you configure AHA to support SAFe? Great, because it can be done.
It absolutely can be done. So I had mentioned when we're going through kind of my part that you can update and customize terminology. We have an excellent document on how to approach SAFe in AHA that speaks to different types of structures, but the key being to update record terminology so that you can produce the same types of views you'd expect for a SAFe environment.
Yes. I think that the next question on the list is one that Megan sort of skirted an answer to, but what are the most common mistakes when implementing AHA roadmaps for future growth? Surely starting in the software is one of those mistakes.
Yeah, and I would honestly say that it is the top one. And I understand the enthusiasm, right? You've just got your license to this. You want to get in and get up and running as quickly as
toys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. But I really do think that it really should start back of the napkin, in a meeting room, not just in terms of strategy formulation and to say, okay, what are our goals and initiatives? How do we input our company vision here? How do we start breaking that down? But even in the way that you are setting up the software, the level of customizability is really key in enabling organizations to tailor it just as it needs to. There's something called the workspace hierarchy, which is essentially each team gets their own workspaces to build their feature boards and to connect their strategy up the line. I think that is crucial in really sitting down and thinking through how you want to organize that workspace hierarchy based upon how your teams and products are organized, but also based upon how you need to report out on that strategy. Who is responsible for that reporting? What are the key metrics? And how does it in your organization, never mind in the software, how does it connect back up to the company level? Getting crisp on that and figuring that out on paper, so to speak, before you dive into the software will really get you ahead when it comes to implementation and configuration. Sean, I didn't know if you wanted to.
Yeah, I would love to add a point to this. I mentioned that I was part of the concierge team here at AHA, where I would work with organizations to kind of help them get started. My simple biggest feedback is keep it simple. Don't boil the ocean. I would engage with some teams that say, hey, we're a small company. We have, 5 product managers, and we would share our screens, and there's 55 workspaces. And I go, oh, keep it simple. I've never experienced managing 10 individual products myself. Go into it with a goal. Go into it with your standards in mind. Megan, to your point of starting on a napkin, absolutely. Take that objective first approach to it. And fully implement on a team, and then kind of roll it out to the greater org.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, you've danced around customization a little bit. So let's deal with it head on. When we need to do this customization, are we calling in the pros? Are we like, calling the Navy SEALs, the whole squad of IS professionals need to show up with their fanciest suits on? Or is it something that can be a little more distributed as we're customizing?
Yeah, I will just say quickly from a consultant's perspective and the clients that I have worked with, AHA is very easy to customize from a user experience perspective. So the ability to go in and change everything from the terminology to create custom roadmaps, customizing every little thing. It's extremely easy to learn and to do. Where I think clients will need help from a third-party expert is in helping them see from that sort of 30,000-foot view, how can we bring all of our products and portfolios in the PMO together under a standard, and then understand where we need to deviate from that standard, create tributaries from that trunk in terms of customizing and configuring AHA too, so that every team works for them. It's not necessarily about here is where this functionality appears and here's how you do it. It's more about how can we gather this diverse portfolio under enough of a standard that you have those high-level roadmaps, that you have that aggregate data that you can start making better business decisions with.
I'll answer this question from a slightly different view as well, since you kind of talked about at a high level view. I'll answer it from a very detailed view, which is when we start getting into the real details of building a roadmap out, there's an immense amount of documentation available, of course, to help you with that. But I'll reinforce the idea that when you're working with AHA, we don't have a sales team. We don't have commissioned staff either. You are working with people who are former product managers. Often they utilized or implemented AHA in the past, and they're absolutely there to help, whether that's a email over to the team to get a response within 2 hours, whether that's a live chat with somebody that's on the team as well. When you're in AHA, whether you have an account or you have a trial, and you go to the little question mark on the very top right, and there's this checkerboard of people. Those are real people. those are my colleagues. We are absolutely here to help. And whether it's even the most detailed question, we're happy to share feedback.
That's a brilliant way of addressing customer needs, and I'm glad to hear it. We are at time, and we want to thank everyone so much for being here and being part of today's session. I think I've learned a lot about using AHA to deliver on strategic initiatives, and hopefully you did too. Thank you. For Megan Cutts and Sean Zenz, I'm Ryan.